For our last declamation of the evening, we travel through the wardrobe to the land of Narnia. C.S. Lewis's sixth story, chronologically, The Silver Chair follows the adventures of two British children, Eustace Scrubb and Jill Pole, as they try to find the missing Prince Rilian, with the help of the ever-gloomy yet ever-steady marsh-wiggle named Puddleglum. As context for this evening's excerpt, our trio have found the missing prince trapped deep in a cave underground by the Witch Queen, who is trying to enchant away any memories of Narnia. Please welcome Junior Durham Pelinka to tell the tale.
The witch said nothing at all, but moved very gently across the room, always keeping her face and eyes very steadily towards the prince. When she had come to a little ark set in the wall not far from the fireplace, she opened it and took out first a handful of a green powder. This she threw onto the fire. It did not blaze much, but a very sweet and drowsy smell came from it. And all throughout the conversation which followed, the smell grew stronger and filled the room and made it hard to think. Secondly, she took out a musical instrument rather like a mandolin, and she began to play it with her fingers, a steady, monotonous thrumming that one didn't notice after a couple of minutes. But the less you noticed it, the more it got into your brain and your blood, and this also made it hard to think. And after she'd been thrumming for quite some time, she began to speak in a sweet, quiet voice. "Narnia," she said. "Narnia. I have often heard your lordship utter that name in your ravings. Dear prince, you are very sick, for there is no land called Narnia." "Yes, there is, though, ma'am," said Puddleglum. "In fact, I happen to have lived there all my life." "Indeed," said the witch. "Tell me, I pray you, what or where this country is." "Up there," said Puddleglum stoutly, pointing overhead. I don't know exactly where." "How?" said the witch, with a kind, soft, musical laugh. "Is there a country up among the stones and mortar of the roof?" "No," said Puddleglum, who was struggling to think. "It's in overworld." "And what or where is this, how do you call it, overworld?" "Oh, don't be so silly," said Scrubb, who was fighting hard against the enchantment of the sweet smell and thrumming. "As if you didn't know, it's up above, up where you can see the sun and the moon and the stars. Why, you've been there yourself, for we even met you there." "I cry you mercy, little brother," laughed the witch, "for I have no memory of that meeting. But we often meet our friends in strange places when we dream, and unless all dreamt alike, you shan't expect me to remember that." "Madame," said the prince sternly, "I have already told your grace that I am the king's son of Narnia." "And shalt be," said the witch, in a soothing tone, as if she were humoring a child. "Shalt be the king to many imagined lands in thy fancies." Jill couldn't remember the names of the things of our world, and this time it didn't even come into her head that she was being enchanted, for the magic was now at its full strength. And of course, the more enchanted you get, the more certain you feel that you are not being enchanted at all. And she found herself beginning to say, "No, I suppose it was all a dream." "Yes, it is all a dream," said the witch, always thrumming. "Yes, all a dream," said Jill. "There never was such a world," said the witch. "No," said Jill and Scrubb, "there was never such a world. There was never a world but mine," said the witch. "There was never a world but yours," said they. But Puddleglum was still fighting hard. "I don't know rightly what you all mean by a world," he said, talking like a man who hasn't enough air. "But you can play that fiddle till your fingers drop off, and you still won't make me forget about Narnia and the whole overworld too." I'll never see it again, I shouldn't wonder, but I know that I was there once. I've seen the sky full of stars. I've seen the sun rise up from the sea in the morning and fall behind the mountains at night. And I've seen him up in the midday sky when I couldn't look at him for brightness. The prince and the two children were standing with their heads hung down, their cheeks flushed, their eyes half closed, their strength completely gone from them, the enchantment almost complete. But Puddleglum, gathering together all of his strength, walked towards the fire, and then he did a very brave thing. He knew it wouldn't hurt him quite as much as it would hurt a human, for his feet were webbed and hard and cold-blooded like a duck's, but he knew it would hurt him quite enough, and so it did. With his bare foot, he stomped on the fire, grinding a large part of it into ashes on the flat earth. And then 3 things happened at once. First, the sweet, heavy smell grew very much less. The prince and the 2 children rose their heads and opened their eyes. Secondly, the witch, in a loud, terrible voice, utterly different from the sweet tone she had been using until that point, called out, "What are you doing? Dare to touch my fire again, mud filth, and I'll turn the very blood in your veins into fire." And thirdly, the pain itself made Puddleglum's head for a moment very clear, and he knew exactly what he thought. For there is nothing like a good shock of pain for healing certain kinds of magic. "One word, ma'am," he said, walking back from the fire, limping because of the pain. "One word. Everything you have said has been quite right, I shouldn't wonder. But I've always been the kind of chap who likes to hear the worst and put the best face that I can on it. So I won't deny any of what you've said. But even so, there's one thing left to say. Suppose that we dreamt or made up all these things. The trees, the grass, the sun, the moon, the stars, and Aslan himself. Suppose we have. Well, then in that case, all that I can say is that to me, the made-up things seem a great deal more important than the real ones. Suppose that this black, hollow pit of a kingdom of yours is the only world. Well, it strikes me as a pretty poor one. And the funny thing is, when you think of it, we're just babies playing a game if you're right. And 4 babies playing a game have created a play world which licks your real world hollow, so I'll stand on the play world. I'm on Aslan's side, even if there is no Aslan to lead it. And so, thanking you for our supper, if these 2 gentlemen and young lady are ready, then we will be departing from your kingdom tonight and heading into the darkness in search of the overworld. Our lives won't be long, I shouldn't wonder. But that's a small loss if the world's as dull a place as you say it is.